what are your memories of Stampede Wrestling?
Stampede Wrestling, well, I think I told everybody about it in the 2015 WWE Hall of Fame. But the true story was, I never heard of Stu Hart in my life. And I was working for the Bushwacker Carpentier for a company called Grand Prix out of Montreal in 1972-73. They said to us, you can stay on if you like, but we'd rather you go away and for a few years, and we'll bring you back so you're fresh. So we hopped on the plane and landed in Calgary. Never heard of Stu Hart, never heard of Stampede. That night we hit the dressing room. In Calgary, there's the fairgrounds with two arenas. One's called the Pavilion and the other one's called the Corral, which is the Saddle Dome now, and WWE do pay-per-views at it. So it's Friday night, television taping in the Pavilion. Archie Gouldie, the Mongolian stomper, comes and tells us what he wants us to do. We're working against the champions. I can't remember their names, and we got disqualified. We beat them up. We had the New Zealand flag, beat them up, and they were laying in the ring. Next minute, these young kids get thrown in the ring. You know, kids 10 years, 12 years old. I don't know who they are, but the guy who's throwing them in, I've known for many years from Australia, who was Abdullah The Butcher. Two of these kids were bleeding. These kids were 10 and 12. They were I didn't know, but they were the Hart sons. And then Abdullah threw them in the ring and he said, beat him up, champ. Because he knew that we're trying to get over. First night in, television taping. So we beat him up. When we headed to the dressing room, this is my first meeting, there's Stu standing at the entrance to the dressing room. He says, what the hell are you doing? I said, what? They said, Abby threw these kids, and he said, put the boot to them. And with Abby throwing them in, we thought, well, it's all cool. And then he said, well, they're my kids. And of course, I got a hell of a show. I said, sorry, sir, blah, 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 blah. You know, I didn't even know about Stu Hart and the Dungeon. I hadn't even heard of him. Anyhow, that was played on Saturday morning at Stampede Wrestling. You know, it was played every Saturday morning on local television, and that weekend was a double shot. Sunday was in the Corral. They did that about 3 times a year, and we came back on Sunday in that Corral, and that was the first time we started getting pelted. We didn't have the drawing heat, where you can put asses in seats, but we had steam already. The third day in the territory. That was the beginning of my year and a half to 2 years of Stampede Wrestling, and along that 2 years, many stories can be told. Many, many stories. Butcher me were the smallest guys in the territory at the time. And this was 74, around 74. We were the smallest. Archie Gouldie was about 260. There was Abdullah. Everybody was John Quinn, Big John Quinn, 6'6" or 6'8", 325. Anyhow, turning the tables now. 79 was in Hawaii. We go to Japan. We had 6 weeks to fill in before going to a territory. I called up Stu, and I said, I got 6 weeks off. He said, can we come in? He said, certainly come in. Tommy Billington had just come into the territory. He'd been there about 6 months, and that's the Dynamite Kid. I came in that night, looked in the dressing room. All of a sudden, Butcher and me are the biggest guys in the dressing room. Butcher's about 240, 235, and I'm about 225, 230 at the time. And I look around, I think, this is strange here. We're the biggest. There's all these guys, 175, 180 pounds. But then I walked out and looked in the pavilion, and that place was jam-packed. I went out and watched Tommy Billington's match, a Dynamite Kid's match, and I saw why. He was jumping. It was a cage match against another Englishman, and he was coming off the top of the cage right across the ring, doing crazy stuff. That's when my first, Davey Boy hadn't even come. He came a year and a half later, and in 79, Brett had just started. That was his first year, and he started late 78, and that was his first year in the business. And in that 6 weeks, we teamed up with Tommy Billington, and we had this sort of British connection, because we're all under the Queen, God save the Queen, and we worked against the Hart Family, and in 2 shows, it was Stu worked. We actually can say that in Edmonton and in Calgary, we worked in the 6-man against Stu, and we felt those sliders, the punches. That's my remembers. Many stories of that territory. That was one of the biggest rib territories there was. If kids today had the ribs played on them, the hearts played on them, they'd be packing their bags and getting out of the business.